Hey, what's up, Kings? So today I wanted to talk a bit about body count, as you can see from the slide, and I'm going to go through a few points on and explain in detail what I kind of mean by each of these. So our goal here is to meet somebody who, whether you're doing this offshore, you're going overseas, or you do this domestically. Maybe there's an immigrant lady that is you believe has harbors traditional values, or there's somebody from like a smaller town. I don't necessarily advocate 100% of the people should go overseas. I think that this is a very good solution for most people. I think that for some people, they could find what they want domestically. Sometimes their financial restrictions are such that they have to do so. So basically, this is kind of good guidelines on how to predict body count, and why we want to predict body count rather than, oh, I'll just ask her. Now, first point right there, never ever directly ask. Why? Well, not to spare her feelings. Who cares? She could just walk out on you, give you a lecture about why you're insecure, so on and so forth. You don't really need that drama. It's not that that would come up. I think what happens is that you're showing your hand, for that cohort of women who are going to just lie to you. They'll tell you what you want to hear, and you'll just believe her. And it might come out later. Some women will eventually, like, oh, after you marry them, they'll let you know, oh, I've slept with 100 different guys or 50 different guys, and she told you it was just five. But basically, if you directly ask, you expose yourself to somebody who may lie. So let's just ignore that, and let's not commit to that kind of strategy. These guidelines are not a guarantee. I don't want to give anyone the false impression that this is going to guarantee or you're actually going to nail down a particular number. I mean, you're not. You're gonna. I think you're just basically going for, like, oh, is she a slut or is she not quite a slut? That's really what we're bifurcating on those two different groups of people. And this way we can burn the haystack, kind of get rid of those who have the higher body count, or we suspect to have a higher body count. All right, so first off, does she display any type of masculine energy? What this really means. Does she dress like a man? Does she not give a crap about what people think about how she dresses? Does she like to wear dresses, or does she like to wear jeans and t-shirt all the time? These are helpful indicators. I think just to kind of start off, it's, again, by itself not going to give you a very good indicator, but it's just one of those in like a multivariate analysis. Think of each of these as a variable. You're kind of gauging it. You might just kind of keep notes about where they fit into each of these characteristics. So, yeah, does she burp a lot? Does she just talk without a filter? Does she cuss a lot? These are helpful indicators. So, just to kind of somebody who's kind of emitting masculine energy. And first of all, you might not want somebody with masculine. I mean, you really want to be paired well. So if you are on the masculine side, why would you want another masculine partner? I mean, you're not dating men, you're dating women. So you should be comfortable with women who are in their feminine energy. And by the way, I don't mean feminine energy in the way that modern American women tend to view it. They tend to view it as, I'm going to kick my feet up and sit on my ass. And that's feminine energy. No, 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 no. Feminine energy is, there's not like one guide, but basically it's more along the lines of somebody who's hardworking, but they have different roles. They understand that men and women are different, and men are stronger in certain areas, and women are stronger in certain areas, and we each have a role to play in a relationship. And they understand that, they embrace it, and they understand that being a woman still means you work. You just work on different things. So anyway, that's one area. If you have to wonder, right? So this is one of those things. Now, I would make sure that you are in the right mental state. Like if you have a high body count as a male, like you go to a lot of different women that you pay for sex for, or you just hook up a lot, you're going to have like default trust issues with women in general. So this may not apply in such a case, but if you're a reasonably well-adjusted male and you have to wonder about like, oh, could you have seen her like doing, two men at the same time, or hooking up with two different men within 24 hours and doing all kinds of crazy stuff in her in her 20s or whatever, then then that may give you that that gut feeling may give you some indication. So something to look out for. Delayed gratification. This is a big one. This one I really want you to focus on. This is where the woman, and unfortunately people have from an aggregate level, a reduced attention span. So this is going to play negatively to many of the women you meet. But there are still many women who are able to like put down their phone when they have dinner with you and not be interrupted by all the notifications that occur. They just react to notifications consistently. May also depend on their job role. If they are in a sales position or something, then it might be that they have to do that. But in most cases, they should be able to either turn off notifications or just not respond to them. And the best situation is where they still have notifications on, but when it comes up, they're able to compartmentalize or ignore it in some way, and then you don't have to worry about it. Because if they put their phone on silent, that may tell you something else about them too, like that they have maybe like some person that they're sleeping with who's like letting you know, hey, when are you done this date so you can come over my place and everything, which is obviously a big no, a big red flag. You don't want to be dating anybody who's still sleeping with somebody else, even if it's just physical or just a play friend or whatever. But in any event, these dopamine hits from the phone, they are going to be a very helpful indicator. Does she meditate? Does she journal? I think that's helpful. You can also mention that, like, hey, I like to do these things. What do you? And then if she either doesn't care to do it, if she hasn't done it or isn't fascinated by the idea, that could be a potential red flag. If she seems like very ambivalent or sort of like, oh, I would never do that. I just don't have the attention span to do that. No, that might give you those indicators. Does she have ADHD? Is she anxious, depressed? It all plays into it. Again, not one. This is, I think, a very powerful indicator, but it is not the only one you should go by. I didn't put this one in, but like tattoos, they may be helpful, and I think it really just depends on whether or not there's a cute little butterfly in her ankle, or whether there's like a sleeve tattoo, or a neck tattoo, or a back tattoo, or a face tattoo, or something that is more prominent and kind of like, well, screams out like, hey, she has that masculine energy, and she is just not, she's for the streets, so to speak, right? So watch out for that too. If this one's kind of cut off, but I'll read it. We want to find out whether or not she may hint that or offer that the body count is low. And in such a case, that's a helpful indicator. So just as an example, I was playing around with somebody. Ironically, I was playing around with somebody who had a low body count. Usually the people you play around with have a high body count, but for this one, and it was just because she was in the right state of mind. She was just coming out of a marriage. She was in a transition state. She had only been with 5 people in her life, and I kind of trusted her. She didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. She was a very honest person about a lot of different aspects, and that's important too. How honest are they with different areas of their life relative? So if they tell you a lot of what you want to hear, then you want to be very suspicious about that. But if they tell you things you don't want to hear, then that's helpful also. So they'll be quick to volunteer that information. Burning a haystack. The term I use frequently is basically just kind of like doing quick filters, quick blocks, quick everything of denying people further access to your time and resources for dating. if they don't meet certain qualifications. So it's like, just immediate discovery of red flags and just out kind of thing. And body count is definitely a huge red flag. So having an extremely high body count. So you can burn the haystack by posing a scenario. I think that I actually have a true scenario. I'll be quick about mentioning it, but basically, I had a date with somebody, and I saw a notification on her phone. She's pretty stupid for leaving her notifications on, I guess, but she had somebody who was saying, "When are you done your date, so you can come over?" And I was sort of like kind of probed about it, and then she finally admitted that she had somebody who scratches an itch for her, and I said, "Thanks very much. Have a good night." And she got very pissed and salty about it, but I mean, it probably meant that she liked me. I think she was being very and it's one of those cases where somebody probably would have been devious or kind of like undercounted their body count or like lied about having somebody they slept with or whatever. So I think what's helpful is that if you mention that, hey, I had this scenario, whether it's true, in my case it was true, in your case you could just make it up, but say like, I had a date with somebody, and pose the same scenario I mentioned, that they had that it was discovered that they had friends with benefits, and they were using that friends with benefits until they found another man. And I said, I'm not doing that because that's like, to me, that's cheating. And one of two things will happen usually, and this is great because you'll bifurcate those individuals. On one side, they'll have the easily triggered high body count women and are like, well, you're just insecure, or well, you don't understand, it's just physical, so on and so forth. And she'll be on that side of the aisle, and then that's when to burn the haystack. You just block, bow out, kindly bow out, leave, block her, never talk to her again. And then there's the other side. The other side is that, hey, if she's a pretty decent woman, she will identify with and even agree with you on that. So you call it a despicable behavior, it's cheating. You're going to alienate those who you don't want to be with, and you'll it's kind of a mind trick, but it's great because you don't have to ask. You can kind of, in a roundabout way, talk about like why it's a problem. And it's highly unlikely that she'll continue to date you if she has that friends with benefits, because think about it. That means if she has high self-respect for herself or faux self-respect, she's going to say, well, you're just too insecure, so I'm not going to bother. It's highly unlikely they'll continue to date you and say like, well, I like this guy and I'm going to keep dating him even though I'm still screwing around, even though he told me that I'm despicable for doing such a thing, or I belong in that despicable crowd. She's just not going to continue to date you, because unless she has something to gain from you. But if we're talking about somebody who wants a long-term relationship, you're alienating her. I don't see a scenario where she'll continue to stick around because she'll have too much stubbornness, call it. I don't want to say self-respect, but like kind of like kind of a stubbornness about her that's just going to say like, no, I'm not going to bother with a guy like that. I'll go with a guy who doesn't care that I'm screwing around with somebody else, and then I'll just transition over to him when we actually end up sleeping together. So great. So that's one way to kind of approach it. And I think this is a bottom line point. Always act open-minded. I think the last point kind of contradicted that, but either kind of like for body count in general, you want to not give an indication, even though you said that friends with benefits while you're dating is deplorable. You didn't say that having a lot of bodies is deplorable. So you want to still show things like, well, if somebody has something casual, outside of dating, that's fine. If they end it and then they go to dating, they kind of open, close one door and open another, rather than keeping the door open until the next door opens, or whatever the analogy you want to use. But if that person feels comfortable with telling you a lot of their, sexual history, because you have no judgment, but you just remain open-minded to them. And um, yeah, so that's about it. I think that all of these points are going to give you a good correlate. It's going to be correlated with body count to a certain degree, and I think it's going to take practice. So definitely, when you date, judge that body language, the responses to certain kinds of questions, and not in an interrogative way, just kind of a feeling out, getting to know each other kind of thing. Very pleasurable, easygoing environment. So anyway, that's about it. Hope it's been helpful. Until next time, take care, Kings.